Hey, what's going on, guys? All right, so in this video is going to be the first video of sending emails. So basically, this is going to be a two-part episode. But what we're going to do within this first video is set up all the functionality that we need in order for us to be able to send emails. And then within the next video, we will be testing out our email functionality. And then if everything goes well, we're gonna then be finishing up all the email functionality that we need across the application itself. All right, so basically, as you can see currently, I'm logged in as the client, as you can tell by the root there and the name of the user. And then here we are in the dashboard. So the first email functionality that we are going to set up is here within where it shows the full request details. So if you remember, this is the exact same view as the one within the admin side of the application, but the only difference is that within this view the client is able to see all the updates that the admin has set up, or the admin has inserted in regards to this particular request or case or query, if you want to call it that way. But the difference is that the two main differences that here the client doesn't have the button to close off this particular case. Only the admins can do that. And then if you remember, when the admin inserts any text within this particular form over here, it inserts the update, which is going to be displayed here on the right. Now, now for the client side, they're going to use the exact same form, but the difference is that this one is actually going to send out a notification to the client requesting feedback in regards to this particular case or query. So so now how we're going to do this is that the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a mail controller which is going to handle that particular notification functionality. And then from there on, I'll explain all the other stuff regarding setting up email as we go along. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is open up the terminal, and then I'm going to create the mail controller. Sorry about that. It's controller. And then I'm going to say mail controller. All right, so we've created our mail controller, which is going to be here. So now here within the web config file or the web file, here we're going to create a route for the mail. Okay, I'm going to name that particular route mail dot request feedback. And then I'm going to take the exact same name and also name the route the same way. Then we're going to call the mail controller. And then the method is also going to be the exact same thing, the request feedback. All right. So now if we come into the mail controller over here, this is where we're going to set up that function. So I'm going to say request. Right. Oh, by the way, I forgot something. Here within the route itself, it needs an ID. This ID is going to be used to get the request details, so that we are able to pass it to the view. So just correct that quickly. All right. So now that we have this function set up, we need to also pass in that ID over there. And what else? Guess that. Oh yeah, we also need the request object. Okay. So now I'm gonna copy this named route over here, and then if you remember, here everything else is gonna stay the same. The only difference is we're gonna change that named route over there. And then, like I said, we need to retrieve the request details, and so we're gonna pass in the ID over there. So we did this within the previous video. So if you haven't seen that, just check that out. So now we already have our validations here. The only thing we now need to grab is that request date. I mean the request update, which is the name of the text area field. So this is just gonna grab the message that the client is gonna be typing in over here. Uh, we'll just do some validations there. So we're just gonna say this, and then we want to paste that name there, and then we're just gonna say required, and we don't need to set a max value, but we can do that here by saying let's just say 255, and then yeah, that's it. That should be fine. All right, so now the other thing that we need to do is we're gonna get the client get, get client details, and then after here we're gonna say get request details, and then after that we're gonna say send email, and then we just go back to the request details page. So we'll say return, and we'll just say back with a success message. Right. Okay, so now let's get to the email part. All right, so like I said before, Laravel makes it very easy to work with PHP and so forth. And sending emails or setting up emails is no what you call it is no exception. So the one thing that we need to do now is, let me just type out the comment and then I'll explain as I go on. Then I'm going to flag it with say markdown, and then I'm going to say equals to email dot request. Okay, so here's what's happening with this particular command over here. It's gonna create this PHP artisan make mail. It's gonna create a mailable class, and then which basically is gonna create a folder within here called mail, and then it's gonna put this mailable class within there with this particular name that we've made here. And then by flagging it with the markdown email, what it's gonna do is it's gonna create a view within the folder called email, which is being flagged over there, and this is what it's going to name it. So what markdown emails do is that it gives us a base template that we can use to send emails. So it's going to include some basic styling and so forth, so that we don't have to do that ourselves. And so it's going to give us a base template, and then this is what we're going to use to send to send when we send emails, and then so forth. And then the request, what you call it, request feedback mailable class. This is what we're going to use to pass down data to this particular view over here. So now I'm going to run this command, and then it's going to create all of that for us. Okay, so now if you check, there's our mail folder over there, and then within here it's gonna created that request feedback mailable class. And then if you check it out, all it has is a constructor method and also a markdown function within the build method. So now the one thing that we need to do now is within the mail within the mail controller, we need to pull this request feedback. We need to pull the mail function within our controller and set this all up. So how we do that is that we come here and then we need to pull in the mail function. So the first thing I do is it's illuminate, and I believe it supports, and then I believe it's facades, and then it's mail. Okay, and then we're gonna pull in the mailable class, which is going to use app mail, and then request feedback. Then we need to pull in the user, the the user model, which is going to be app user. Then we need the request, what you call it, object as well. So it's going to be app, and then models, and then create request. Okay, so we got all we need. So now let's get the user ID or the user. So now how we're gonna do that is that since the person who's sending an email is the logged in user, so we can grab the details of that user using the auth facade. Oh, by the way, let me pull that in as well. And then I just say auth. All right. So now what we're gonna say is client, and then equals to, I'm gonna say user find or fail, and then we're gonna get that using the auth facade, and then ID. So basically, we're getting the authenticated users details using that auth facade. Then we're gonna get the credentials. So we're gonna say request. I'm just gonna say request DTL. That is gonna equal to create request. And the same thing, we're gonna say find or fail. Then we're gonna use the passed in ID through the parameter which is being passed down, here through the form. And by the way, also within since we did that as a parameter within the route, we need to use that to get the request details. So we did that. All right. So now with the mail, what we do is we're gonna say mail, then we're gonna say to, then we're gonna say send. So now here within the to method, obviously we're sending that to the system admin. So we're just gonna say sys uh, sys is it sys admin? Yeah, system admin, and then at support.com. That's who we're sending the mail to. But then here within the send method, um, we need to grab this request feedback here. So how we do that, we say new and then request feedback. And then what we do is we pass in that client instance, and then also the request detail instance, or also even also the message. So we can grab that by saying request, and then sorry, request update. So basically that's the message we're going to be sending um, to the admin. All right. So now by doing this, here, new request feedback, we can now grab all this information within the request feedback mailable class. So how we do that is here within the constructor. So the first thing we need to do is grab, we need to take all of this and then paste it up here. Okay, so now we're gonna say user, and then we're gonna say clients, and then we're gonna say create request, which is going to be we're gonna name it the same thing, request, and then ETL, and then we're gonna say message. All right, so now to pass these details to the view, we need to create public methods for each one. So we're gonna say public, and then we're gonna say client. I'm just gonna copy this. Uh, the last one is gonna be message, obviously. And then I'm gonna take this. So I'm naming these properties the same as what we are passing in here within the constructor. It just makes it much more simpler to get. So now what I can do is say this client equals to that client over there. I'm gonna copy this again, and then you're gonna say request ETL, and then the message is gonna be that. So what we're doing is we're saying this client over here, this client is that property over there is going to be equal to that client passed in through the parameter. And same goes for all the other objects. All right, so now since we have this, we are then now able to pass down the details of this particular information to this view here, which is sitting within the mail dot request feedback folder. I mean uh, structure. So if you check this mail request feedback, or actually the other thing I need to do is I need to add another method. I'm going to say from. So remember this email is coming from the client. And so since we have access to that client object, what we can do is say client and then email, which is going to get the email of the authenticated user that we're grabbing over here. So this is from the client, and right. So now what we can do is move on to the view. So here within the views folder, when we created that, when we rendered that command, it created a folder email and then request feedback, what you call it, view over there. Just so that I can remind you, this is how we created it here. So now when we go within this request feedback view, as you can see, we already have some components, component-based view set up already for us. So the only thing we do now is access all this information here within that request feedback view. So now what we're going to do first is we're going to display the name of the client. All right. So how we're going to get the name? Um, we're getting it through this client object. So what we do here in the request feedback, we're going to say client, apologies. We're going to say, I'm going to put it in an H1 tag, and then I'm going to say request from, then we're going to open those curly braces, and then we're going to say client first name, and I'm going to concatenate the surname as well, and I'm going to say client last name. Okay, so this will display the name of the client, and then what else do we need? We need um, or what we need is to display. Remember, the client is requesting feedback regarding this particular case. So what we're going to do is we're gonna only display um, we're only gonna display this what you call it, this case number over here. We don't need to show all the others. Uh, the the client, what you call it, the admin can just use this case to look for it within the database if they want to. So all we need to do is I'm gonna do an H3 tag. By the way, actually, let me put this in bold tags. All right, so we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna say number, case number, and then again, I'm gonna pull that in bold tags, and then we're gonna say yes, it's request DTL, and then we're gonna say case number, and then it's gonna display that case number in bold text. So now what we need to do is I'm just gonna put a horizontal tag or horizontal line, and we don't need this button over here. We can just all it's doing is just notifying the admin about the case. So now we can just put p tags over here, and then from there what we're getting is the message, which is that over there. And then we can just put that within curly braces and say message, and then we can leave the rest as it is. So basically that's all we need. So just to recap, we created a mail controller, and then when the client submits the form here, the request details, requesting feedback, um, passing down the request, the ID, we're passing it down with the request ID, of which we're going to pull it. We're going to pull the request details using that ID over here, and then we're getting all that information along with the user who's requesting feedback, and we're passing it down within this mailable class over here, and we're sending the email to system at system admin at support.com, and then system admin is gonna receive a notification, and it's gonna be displayed within this particular view over here. So that's how you can set up emails within Laravel. It might look complicated because there's so many things that you need to do, but once you get it, you'll see how simple it is to set up email notifications and so forth. And then here we return back to the request details page. In fact, we need to get back here and display that message at the top. All right, so it looks like we already have a message showing. So yeah, when they return back to the page, they will the message will display at the top, and yeah, that will be all that we need in terms of setting up our email functionality. All right, so that's it for the video, guys. Like I said, this is going to be a two-part series. I'm only doing this so that the videos are not too long or they don't linger on too long. So we will be testing out all this email functionality within the next video, and then from there on, if everything goes well, we will be attending all the other places where we need to set up email. For example, like here within the admin controller, here at the bottom we left a note to also send notification to clients to be able to change their passwords and so forth. So if everything goes well within the next video, we will be setting up that as well. All right, guys, like I said, that's it for the video. Thanks again, guys, for watching. If you've liked what you've seen so far, again, don't forget to subscribe, like and share, and I'll be checking you guys within the next video. Cheers for now.